I like books. I like plots. Everyone loves a good story. And in fact, I'm pretty sure in the National Basketball Association there are currently 30 teams that are in existence. However, I was listening to a basketball podcast earlier. I just found myself disappointed with the kind of overall depressive mood that seemed to be coming through. They were talking about the fact that LeBron is most likely going to miss the playoffs. Now, he's not mathematically eliminated yet, but it looks like basically like everyone is like Lakers are done. So this video will look silly if they do make it somehow or not. But basically, they kept complaining about the fact that there's no personalities or there's like no big draw story. And I think that that sucks. I mean, maybe in terms of casual fans that are fans of LeBron, but I feel like this next generation that's like behind mine is growing up with the Kevin Durant's and sort of growing up a little bit with LeBron, but they got LeBron in his prime. So I feel like it's a little disingenuous to kind of say that like LeBron is the gravitas of which the NBA has to have. If he's not in the playoffs, everything is like just messed up. Since he's gone to Lakers, like everything's going down the drain. And I disagree. I feel as though it is, like I said before, just not really true. I think that there's a lot of interesting storylines, and I'm gonna talk about those. So, first off, in the East, the conference that the King left, that he went away from, and people made a few Raptors memes that I liked. We have the Raptors. I'm just going to say them first because I just mentioned the memes. The Raptors have Kawhi Leonard, who they traded their, homegrown franchise star DeMar DeRozan for, which definitely caused a lot of uproar about loyalty. That literally spawned a storyline unto itself. The last time we had people talking about this was when Isaiah Thomas got traded, and you know how that went. Basically, the Raptors have to do what they can to keep Kawhi because Kawhi is the central hub of this attempt at winning a championship. Basically, if they don't make it out the first round, there's going to be alarm bells sounding. They are aiming for the Eastern Conference Finals. Keeping Kawhi means that they don't have to do a rebuild. They can continue to develop. Now, they do have homegrown talent in Pascal Siakam, OJ Anunoby, and other young players, but they've kind of like shipped off a majority of the team that they had that was making the playoffs together and kind of growing together. And now, in favor of a even better one, featuring Marc Gasol, Kawhi Leonard, to name a few. That will be interesting to see how the Raptors go through these playoffs. Oh, hey, who's that over there with all the melodrama and dysfunction? Is that the Celtics? The Boston Celtics, who were supposed to be, if you haven't ever been in Bill Simmons' Twitter mentions, 67 and 15. They're about as consistent as my burps in this video, which is not really because those just came out of nowhere. And they've been having a bit of a, downward spiral, if you will, even though they're still playing really well and they're in the 5th seed as of today. They have been having a lot of dysfunction within the locker room, it seems, and within like their play, the way that they've been trying to be a team. It hasn't really done well. They have Kyrie Irving's free agency. They have other free agents that are going to be like getting potentially signed by other teams. At the beginning of the year, the promise that seemed to be coming through did not. In fact, it went south very quickly, especially after Kyrie initially had stated that he was going to stay, and then was like, ask me July 1st. So now people are wondering where Kyrie will go. He's had a multitude of different quotes and different interviews that seem to be alienating himself from the other younger players on the team. He is trying to sort of employ that same LeBron type strategy of passive aggressively doing things, and it's just not working out, and the whole team seems to be looking down for it. Ironically, this video is being recorded after they just smacked the Warriors in the face and may have knocked some teeth out. Of course, this will mean that people will kind of shift on what they see the Celtics as, but it will be interesting to see the Celtics in the playoffs and how far they will go, because Kyrie himself said he's kind of just waiting for playoffs, so like then they could play together. Like, he has confidence in his team in the playoffs. They just need to survive the regular season, which is kind of not good for a team that doesn't already look really together. They only seem to be occasionally getting up and working together, and they're not being consistent. So Boston fans are probably terrified. So again, another interesting storyline, Kyrie Irving's free agency that again will be tested in playoffs, because hey, Who else is there? Who's their rival? Who could be? Well, okay, not really rival because Celtics beat their butt so many times. Like Joel Embiid was like, it's not even rivalry. That's the Sixers who traded for Jimmy Butler, and you were like, okay, that's it. They're gonna be trying to work the future with Jimmy Butler. They said no. Trade deadline. Give me Tobias Harris. Here's a Landry Shamet, lightly used, may potentially be better than JJ Redick in the future, not now. And so yeah, they got Tobias Harris and made a big four with Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Jimmy Butler, and Tobias Harris. Now the interesting thing is that Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler are both free agents this year. They're going to be free agents this year. So depending on how far the Sixers go in the playoffs, shocker, it might affect their free agency plans to re-sign both Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler. Now people have pointed out that Tobias Harris is kind of insurance, but again, these guys are free agents. So the Sixers need to show them in the playoffs that they should stay here. And it'll also be interesting because they have to develop a level of chemistry in like basically 0.2 seconds in basketball time. They only have we're getting close to like amount of like 10 games. We're still in double digits. I want to say it's like 17 or 16 games left, and they will have to figure everything out together. Again, free agency, depending on how far they go in the playoffs, makes the playoffs more interesting. Do you see a trend here? The fourth team in the East, I see it. Did the Raptors, Celtics, 76ers, there's a fourth team. I'm just not remembering. Bucks. The Bucks don't really have any, free agent storylines per se. All they have to do is really retain Chris Middleton, and I'd like to think that he's going to stay, especially the way he's flourished and become an all-star under the system. So not really like, oh my God, Chris Middleton's going to leave. But it'll be interesting to see the Bucks, who have ravaged this regular season and just destroyed teams, unless it's the Sun. The Sun has just consumed them. The Sun will consume all. But the Suns are the only team that the Bucks just could not figure out for whatever reason. The Bucks have destroyed the regular season, destroyed most teams. So it'd be interesting to see in the playoffs when things start to slow down game plans. You have more games to play a team. It gets to a grinded out fest. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bucks respond to that and how far they go. I think that they'll go far. I mean, I don't really have a particular choice. I think Raptors Bucks would be interesting. I think any combination of those four in the Eastern Conference Finals would be pretty interesting. That's not to discount the Pacers or the Pistons. I want one of the top four. Like they're actually the hegemony is actually pretty interesting. The hierarchy, I shouldn't say hegemony. Hierarchy is pretty cool looking. I like that. And I think as far as the East goes, those storylines are interesting. I mean, and the potential upsets in the East too. Like it's not like any of these teams are just gonna like magically. They all have certain flaws and that we have all been fixated on, and we're wondering in the playoffs, will those flaws be completely exposed to the point that team gets beaten? Or will they be exposed but the team responds with a specific counter and does the good deed, the good thing. This video has gone on a little longer than I thought, so I'm gonna end it here, and I'll talk about the West in a second video. That's just like that's like four teams that are already more interesting than worrying about LeBron. Like sans LeBron is my point here. There are still interesting things within the NBA. Is LeBron a big, huge draw? Yes, he is, but he's probably not gonna make the playoffs, and I don't want to just him and haw over the fact that he's not going to make the playoffs, so the playoffs are just not interesting and no one has any personality whatsoever. Everyone's boring. You have Joel Embiid. You have Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's personality draw is that he doesn't want anybody bugging him, so he kind of is just a stone cold wall, which is ironic, but that I'm going to go into that in a different video. I think that, you have the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo is he's a fun guy. I just feel like it's disingenuous, and I think that it's almost a little like mean to just be like, oh yeah, no one is interesting in the East. Okay, sure. Well, this guy says the plots are always evolving. They're always changing, and some of the main characters may have to leave. That doesn't mean the rest of the story can't be just as exciting. That's why you develop new characters. Duh. It's freaking storytelling 101. A 101. A 101. I don't got any other numbers for you today.